Perfect. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Discover IFSA Sri Lanka, our student info session about all things IFSA Sri Lanka programs. Let's start with today's agenda. So, just to give you an idea of what we're going to go over, you'll meet our team. We have a fantastic Sri Lanka team at IFSA. We'll talk through what's included in an IFSA program, go into the academics, what to expect with classes, and then we'll talk all about the student experience, give you information on program location, cultural activities and excursions, what to expect with transportation and different opportunities on the program. We'll talk about health and safety, a little bit about our application process and the support you'll receive as an IFSA student, and finally ending with scholarships. And of course, if any questions come through, we'll answer those at the end. So let's start by meeting our amazing Sri Lanka team. First off, with me on the call is our Regional Director for Asia and Pacific Operations, Christy Hoover. We also have our amazing Associate Director for Sri Lanka, Tilak. He has a video. We have an introduction from him just in a second. And then we have Tamara Bycroft, who is our Regional Health, Safety, and Wellbeing Manager for Asia Pacific. She couldn't be on the call either, but she will be your go-to for all things health, wellness, and safety. If you have questions about medications or academic accommodations, anything you need for your health, safety, and well-being while you're in Sri Lanka, Tam will be your go-to for that. And we'll talk a little bit more about health, safety, and well-being later in the presentation. And then for anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Brittany Brooks. I am the enrollment counselor for our Sri Lanka programs at IFSA. So we're happy to be with you all today and go over our Sri Lanka programs. So let's hear directly from Tilak, our amazing associate director, for an introduction and a little bit about the Sri Lanka programs, the culture, and the beautiful country.
Ibovan. My name is Tilak Jayatilaka, the Associate Director of the IFSA Sri Lanka program. I am glad to say that this is the oldest study abroad program in Sri Lanka, affiliated to the University of Peradeniya since its beginning in 1983. I would like to tell you little bit about Sri Lankan culture, food and the modes of transportation briefly. Sri Lanka is an island nation with great cultural diversity. Ethnicity and religion pervade many aspects of life and constitute the basic elements of this diversity. Four of the world's major religions are being practiced in the country. Buddhism is practiced by the majority of Sri Lankans, predominantly the Sinhalese. Hinduism is practiced by the Tamils, while Islam is followed by the Muslims and Malay communities. Christianity, the religion of colonizers, is practiced by the Burgher population and some Sinhala and Tamil families that converted to the Christianity during colonial period. These religious communities coexist peacefully and there is blurring of religious demarcation when it comes to celebrating annual festivals. Buddhist and Hindu temples, mosques and churches with their own colorful rituals are the most distinguishing attribute of the cultural landscape. In contrast to many other Asian destinations, this vibrant blend of cultural diversity is compacted into 65,610 square kilometers in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's culinary art is testimony to its cultural diversity, with each community adding their twist to local cuisine and making it as varied as it is rich. Sri Lankan cuisine is highly centered around many varieties of rice, vegetables, fruits, as well as coconut, which is a commonly available crop throughout the country. Seafood also plays a significant role in the cuisine. As a country that was a hub in the historic Oceanic Silk Road, contact with foreign traders brought new food items and cultural influences in addition to the local traditions of the country's ethnic groups. Sri Lankan food today, a reflection of the country's colonial past, from the Portuguese, Dutch, and British periods, in addition to the traditions brought in by the Arab and Indian traders. Land-based train and bus services are the principal modes of public transport in the country. These services are provided by the state-run transport board and privately owned buses. Apart from that, there are cab, taxi and three-wheeler services run by companies like Uber and PickMe, which are easily accessible from a smartphone. These new services have significantly enhanced convenience and accessibility for commuters. When choosing a method of transport for international students in the university, it is better to hire a three-wheeler that can share the ride with a friend. Students can use bicycle or scooters around the campus. And the university also offers shuttle services. We are all here committed to make students' life as fascinating as possible, with various activities ranging from on-campus to off-campus initiatives, including site visits, field trips, excursions, and other extracurricular activities. So students never run short of what to do during their stay in Sri Lanka. We hope you would decide to be a IFSA student and study here in the University of Peradeniya. We will make sure that you have a memorable study abroad experience that will definitely help you to accomplish your career expectation and academic goals as well. Looking forward to meeting you all in coming semesters.
All right. Thank you so much, T-Lock. An amazing look at the university there, the country of Sri Lanka. And let's get into now what's included in an IFSA program. So, what can you expect for your time in Sri Lanka? Included in the program, you have your tuition costs, housing costs as well. Sri Lanka does have homestays, which we'll talk about a little later on in the presentation. You have pre arrival advising and support throughout the entirety of your application, the pre arrival stage, and once you get on site as well. You have excursions and activities, which we'll also talk about. You do get insurance as well, set up by IFSA with CISI. You'll have on site guidance and support, including 24/7 emergency support if needed. And then you also have your post program transcript as well. And I want to just reiterate also what we like to call the IFSA difference. So, our key commitments as an organization and what we care about for you, our students. And the first is inclusive excellence. So, we make sure our programs and our practices are inclusive and reflect the value that we place as IFSA on diverse perspectives. And we strive to support all of our learners who really do enrich our educational communities. Second is individualized learning. So, we strive to develop supportive environments for all of our students, which encourage you to achieve your goals through active engagement in our learning experiences on site. Third, we have intercultural agility. So, we strive to inspire our students to build lifelong intercultural competencies and to embrace cultural diversity. And then finally, enduring impact. So, we strive to design our programs to maximize the impact of your student experience and promote intellectual and personal development, which really can benefit you throughout the rest of your life after your study abroad program. So, things that we strive, these are our commitments. These are things that IFSA strives to do throughout the entirety of your program and what you can expect from us in Sri Lanka. So let's get into academics now and talk through what you can expect regarding classes and your options there. So we do have the standard credit load for the Sri Lanka programs is 12 to 15 US credit hours. And we have language classes available. We have Sinhala and Tamil, both. And we also have elective classes that are all 3 US credit hours. Our language classes are as well, most of them. We'll talk about one just in a minute. But as you'll see here, we have a long list of previously offered elective courses for the program that are exciting and different. There's a variety, different departments, different subjects, different fields. So we'll start with, you'll see we have archaeology and cultural heritage management. Sri Lanka has over 250,000 archaeological sites, and then present day Sri Lanka as well represents a very collective and diverse history of traditions, art, architecture, literature. So you dive into all that with that class. We have biodiversity in Sri Lanka. If you don't know, Sri Lanka is one of the world's 34 biodiversity hotspots. So get to dive into their diverse flora and fauna, as well as conservation, sustainability. With that class, you'll see we have one, climate change impacts in tropical ecology. So all about the consequences of climate change on Sri Lanka and the management of that and the risks that they experience there. We have ethnicity and politics in Sri Lanka. So kind of an introduction into both through a different context, a different culture. We have gender identity and culture class. And so that one focuses on the principal factors that impact the gendered identity and status of particularly women in a post-colonial, post-independent Sri Lanka. We have global food systems. So that's kind of a focus on food production and the agricultural ecosystems there. We have international conflict and peace building. This one's kind of an interdisciplinary class. It talks through international conflict resolution, philosophies of peace, peace building. We also have living religious traditions in Sri Lanka. So as you heard Tilak in the video, there are many different religious communities represented in Sri Lanka. So you'll kind of dive into those and their different forms of worship and traditions and also inter and interreligious tensions that might be present. We also have primate evolution. So this class basically focuses on evolutionary mechanisms and theory of evolution, natural selection, all of that. We have sustainable tourism as well. And so that is exactly what the title it denotes. It's Sri Lanka's tourism industry and how that affects their use of biological resources. So a ton of really fascinating, unique elective classes that have been offered in the past to choose from. They are all 3 US semester credit hours. Now we also have the language courses. So as I said, you do have 2 language options here beginning for both. And we also have essential Sinhala. We recommend this for any students who have never taken Sinhala before, which will probably be most of you, but it is a 1 credit class. It's just a great foundation in the language, gives you some confidence, gives you some practice out in real world context with the language to help you have a successful semester in Sri Lanka. So lots of great classes to choose from. And now I want to talk briefly about our research track. So we do have 2 program tracks, the standard track, you have all of those electives, the language classes. Then we have a research track. So this is for students who would like to participate in a student chosen research project during the last 4 weeks of the program. It's actually a 4 week extension. So at the end of the program, you stay 4 weeks longer than other students on the standard program to complete your research project. And it is an amazing opportunity. It is a 3 credit class, and you do one-on-one work. You have a faculty advisor that supports and helps you along the way, who's very knowledgeable in the fields and in Sri Lanka and context there. You have weekly faculty meetings with them as you're going through your project. And some of the sample research topics, so students have done in the past, you'll see here quite a lot of fascinating topics, a variety of them as well. You'll see there's some on conservation in Sri Lanka, rethinking development in the country, deforestation, pesticides and compost, and agriculture. Some focus on the LGBTQ plus community in Sri Lanka. So a lot of different research topics have been done in the past. So a really great opportunity if you want to dive in and you have a topic. So students will create their own research projects with the support of our staff in Sri Lanka, and then carry that out at the end of the program and have something really amazing to bring back from your time in Sri Lanka, and to work with experts and to dive into something you care about is a really cool opportunity with this program. And so that's it for academics. So if you have any questions about any of these classes or the process for choosing classes or the research process and what that will look like, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to chat through all of this with you going forward. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Christy, who is going to talk with us all about the student experience, starting with program location.
Wonderful. Thanks, Brittany, and thanks everyone for watching today. My name is Christy Hoover, the Regional Director of Operations for Asia Pacific. I'm so pleased to be here today and share more about Sri Lanka, in particular the student experience. So when we're thinking about going to Sri Lanka, what do we think about? This is a UNESCO designated area where there's archaeological ruins spanning 2,000 years. You have tea plantations and rice paddies. There is beaches, tropical climate. It's a really interesting country in terms of the culture with really friendly people, stunning landscapes, waterfalls, wildlife, rich heritage. And don't forget that cuisine that we were seeing in the video that Tilak sent. So what an incredible place to spend a semester, in particular Kandy. So this is the second largest city in Sri Lanka. It has a population of 1.5 million people. So you get that mix of cultural and history, as well as some of those unique experiences. It was the last kingdom of Sri Lanka and thus has ancient and British archaeological sites. The city is surrounded by mountains and there is a lake in the middle. So it's this beautiful area that was previously the royal capital, the former royal capital of Sri Lanka. It's culturally and religiously important as well, and the home of the Temple for the Tooth Relic, which is a world-renowned place for worship and World Heritage listed. Next slide, please, Brittany. So our IFSA Center, so students will actually be taking their classes at the University of Berdenia, which is not far from our center. And the center is about 1 to 3 kilometers from our homestay families, so not very far with that. Students will come to our center to study. They can meet with staff. They could take part in some of our community-based learning activities there. So the space is really open on Monday to Friday, and it's where our staff will be working out of, and it's also home to our IFSA library. Next slide, please. So our learning partners, this is something that is incredibly unique about the Sri Lanka program. So students actually have that opportunity to connect with a local student from the university. And this student, they will meet at orientation, and then they can have consistent meetings, activities, experiences throughout the term. So learning partners are available even on that weekly basis if that's what the student would like. So you would get matched with a partner that you feel comfortable with. So we would bring more partners in during that first day of orientation, and students kind of self-select, who do they have interest with and good conversation with and feel comfortable with. So these great, wonderful matches can be found. And then this is the local that you can have with you through to the duration of your experience. They often will take our students on that first experience on a campus tour and around the city. So you have this local who's giving you this information and showing you, a side of their life too. So it's an excellent way for additional cultural immersion and learning. And learning partners can actually almost act as a liaison with our homestay families as well. So they're deeply connected to our community. Next slide, please. And with our homestays, so students are going to be placed in a single room where you get 3 meals a day plus snacks included, and there's one student that will be placed with each family. We have a really strong network of experienced host families, which are really well vetted, and they embrace the experience of hosting and, having students in their homes and being part of their family and their community. Our families often work in the education or government sector, and that photo that you see there is actually a student meeting his homestay family for the first time. The furthest distance away from our IFSA Center would be like 10 to 15 minutes by a tuk-tuk, but some could even be like walking distance and even walking distance from the university. We cater for dietary needs, and that preference form that students fill out will help ensure that we're meeting any religious preferences you have, as well as dietary needs and such. Next slide, please. So excursions, some incredible things that you will get up to that that are just included in the program, and they meet different, whether, some you'll have the academic experiences, some things, but getting out and seeing nature, the flora and fauna there is incredible. So the Horton Plains National Park, it's actually a really popular tourist attraction. It has pools and waterfalls, grasslands, elevation ranges. It was actually it's designated as a wildlife sanctuary because of its biodiversity value. So previously it was actually like this hunting ground that was used for like deer and elephants, even wild boars. And it had lower slopes that were then cleared and became coffee and tree plantations. So it's really rich in that flora and fauna. It even has this precipice, which is called World's End, and that's known as a particular major attraction there that people always want to get a photo there. Our students will go on guided walks with a professor actually from our biodiversity class, and that will really extend the learning, in terms of what they're seeing and experiencing. Visiting the Mattel is an important display of tolerance and acceptance. So the Mattel is the home of the Sir Mount Morad temple, and it's an important site for the Hindi community in Sri Lanka. It was heavily damaged in the anti-Tamil riots at the start of the Sri Lankan Civil War, but it's been fully restored and embellished with over 1,000 statues of Hindu deities. So today, Sinhala and Tamil worship there together, which is something that's not done in other places. So what a unique and special place that you'll be able to go to. And our overnight excursion at Norayapure. So this is the first kingdom of Sri Lanka and is the best representation of the beginning of pre-modern urbanization in Sri Lanka. It is World Heritage listed for well-preserved ruins, and as students, you'll get to visit those. It was the longest serving ancient capital there, but was destroyed actually after invasion from South India. So there's a lot of Indian influence there too. It continues to be a vital pilgrimage site for Buddhists, and now actually also is used for sustainability practices with hydro systems and renewable energy. So really interesting weekend excursion for you to go to. Next slide, please. And our IFSA activities. So these are our community-based learning activities that you'll have the opportunity to take part in. To start, City is Tech. So this is a wonderful approach to intercultural agility. Students are going to explore Kandy with their local Sri Lankan learning partner and almost approach the city as though you're reading a text. So it's a walking tour that invites students to reflect on the city's culture and the lived experience of the residents. So you're mapping and observing architecture, commercial activities, and more. We also have the Henna Mountains, and this activity also takes place during orientation. You're going to climb this mountain that is close to the university and visit 4 different religious sites, just briefly, but you will enter temples, mosques, a Catholic church, and get to experience Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist, and Catholic rituals. And you'll be with your learning partner and our staff with this, and you can kind of see and compare these sorts of rituals and recognize the influence that they have on this country. So it's a wonderful experience, to open your mind, but also to learn more about religion in Sri Lanka. We have an opportunity during the semester to visit a women's shelter, and this gives an opportunity to be involved in something that's really impactful. This activity visits the largest establishment for crisis intervention and the first shelter for women in the Kandy area. So students will learn from the administrators about, the types of domestic violence these women have experienced and why they're seeking care and how they're actually provided a safe, supportive environment, which will begin to their recovery. And there's actually a training program in there for women to learn skills so that they can, become more financially independent and get a job, these sorts of things. And students can later have an opportunity to volunteer at the shelter or do research in that space too. The Nambala Buddhist Meditation Center is open to all people who are just seeking to learn and practice in Buddhist meditation. So there's no prior experience required. So the center is actually located in the hills, kind of away from people in the busyness of life. It's still used by the local community, but students will go there and have a lecture on mindfulness and participate in meditation and training in a space that's really so unique and special. And again, these are students have then pursued that in terms of research or just personal practice. So it opens up new experiences through this activity. We also have optional kind of extracurricular activities, so students can choose. They could do the kendi, the dancing, where you learn and perform at the end of the term. And that photo, these are the kind of costumes that you would wear. There's another option of cooking, where at the end kind of term, you're working together to prepare this beautiful meal for those in the community, or this batak, which is that design and painting of the fabric. So students can create something beautiful that they will end up, taking home with them. So they're all optional, but again, they really enhance that learning experience. Next slide, please, Brittany. So transportation, you would have seen from the video, there's trains, there's buses, there's public and private buses for that transport, if you want to go to another city, or trains, especially if you want to go further in the country. And as Tilak mentioned, like Uber and taxi are available as well. For an idea on cost, like taking the bus would be like 33 cents, if you were taking that on a short trip. A tuk-tuk would be $1, and a taxi would be like $1.66, using, for frame kind of reference. Students could even rent a taxi for a day, 12 hours to do local travel, and that would be 25 US. But we really recommend getting a tuk-tuk in terms of hiring one to take to and from classes. So if you're just going short distances, again, it's quite inexpensive, they're safe, and you can share that ride with others. Next slide, please. So apologies that Tamar Boycroft, she is fantastic. She is our regional member for our regional manager of health, safety, and wellness. And in addition to Brittany and TLAG, her role is really to support our students' health, safety, and well-being needs, both pre-arrival and then once they're on site in Sri Lanka. So when we're talking about health and safety considerations, recognizing Sri Lanka is a CDC level 1, it is experiencing some political protests, or has been this year, in regards to the presidential election, which is actually scheduled for September 21st, so not long now. There has been an excessive site assessment done. This election was a big part of the reason we kind of delayed reopening, because it does kind of create that sort of instability there. But our expectation is once the election takes place, there's going to be less demonstrations and greater stability for the country. There has been economic instability in terms of fuel and medication shortages, so we ask that applicants do disclose their health well-being needs in the pre-arrival phase, so we can provide them with really specific and individualized advice around that area. There also has been nationwide electricity outlets, which could impact program participants. There was a new bill passed in June aimed at making reforms in the electricity sector, and things are getting better, but just again, we want to put that up for awareness. And finally, LGBTQI+ students could expect to face challenges, as their rights are not as recognized in Sri Lanka as other places in the world. And same-sex sexual activity is currently illegal in Sri Lanka. We just want to approach this with, really authentic advising in the pre-arrival phase. That will take place through appreciative advising calls that you'll have with Brittany. In addition, we will have students, sign a different form, which also outlines other potential challenges. So again, just really want to be authentic in our advising to you. Next slide, please, Brittany. And moving on to the resources that are part of the program. The greatest of these is the on-site staff. So TLAG, he is a fantastic local resource and very experienced in student support. TLAG has been with us for, I'd say 18 years. So you are going into the hands of someone who has, had many students on the program and really embraces what he does, but such a local expert. So in addition, IFSA has a crisis line that students and parents can call 24/7 if support is needed. They can connect you to emergency services, provide advice, or connect you to IFSA staff, just depending on what the situation is. All IFSA program participants have CISI insurance. It's this really comprehensive medical insurance that includes cover for pre-existing conditions, including mental health. And we use an application called Alert Media for crisis management, which allows us to quickly and efficiently communicate with students and do safety checks in the event of an emergency. Students can set up a call with Tamara or email the HSW team at any stage during the pre-arrival or throughout their time in Sri Lanka. So if you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll now hand over to Brittany to talk more about scholarships and the application process.
Thank you, Christy. So let's talk a little bit about the application process and what to expect there. We do have a GPA requirement as a 2.0. And to apply, we just need several things from you. You need to have a passport, so upload a copy of your passport. If it's being renewed or you're currently getting a passport, that's totally fine. You will check a box when you do that application item to let us know, and then we'll provide it once you get it. And then we need an unofficial transcript. So that's nice. You don't have to get an official one. We just need your unofficial, which is a little easier to access. And then a few other things we'll have, if you're doing the research program, you'll have to provide your resume for us, and then a field component intent form, which is just kind of like you're proposing what you'd like to do, what you're interested in, what your experience has been in that area, to get you started down that process with our on-site staff. Now we also have what we call our class selection form, CSF. So that is how you're going to choose which classes you're interested in. So eventually you'll have them all ranked in order of what you'd like to take from what's available at our electives, then the language courses, and the research course if you're doing the research program. And then a few things to remember for deadlines. For spring, it is October 15th when you'll have to have all that done in your IFSA student portal. And then for fall, it's April 15th. And again, I will be here to support you throughout your application. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. And we can meet and have advising calls, as Christy said, to chat through anything about the program, the culture, any concerns you have. It's like that. Which takes me to our pre-arrival support. So once you've submitted your application and you get accepted and you commit to the program and accept your program place, you will enter into our pre-arrival time, and you will have support from me. I'll be sending out quite a bit of information in the form of newsletters. So we'll have a visa guide, so you will have to get a student visa to study in Sri Lanka, but we will walk you through that, provide the documents that you need, and make sure you know exactly what to do there. We'll have a flight guide. We'll have an arrival window, so you'll get picked up at the airport by our staff in Sri Lanka. We'll have a health, safety, well-being newsletter. So you'll hear more from Tam and get connected to her Calendly again, learn about the essentials for that area in Sri Lanka. So we'll send that out. And speaking of that, we will have a health, safety, and well-being form as well that will be in your IFSA student portal. And as Christy mentioned, really important to disclose any needs and anything that you'll need support on while you're in Sri Lanka, so you can make sure you get what you need. We'll have a travel essentials newsletter, a packing list. We'll also do a pre-arrival webinar. So you will be on a call like this, and we'll go over what to expect. And on the first few days in the program, we'll have a first few days booklet as well, or it's also called a launch pad to just get you started with your time in Sri Lanka. And then we'll send out some travel reminders too right before you depart on your program. So a lot of support from us, and I'll be available. Tam will be available. All of us will be happy to chat with you through the pre-arrival timeline as well. Let's talk about scholarships. So that's an important part of a study abroad experience, is how you can get any funding or scholarships. IFSA has some great opportunities for you, starting with our general scholarship. All students can fill out this application. It is in your IFSA student portal. And if you don't see it there, you can reach out to me and let me know, and I'll make sure to get it to you. And this is a needs-based scholarship. The amount of money can vary per cycle, but it will go towards the overall program cost for you. First Generation is another scholarship for our first generation college students. That's up to $2,500. It is merit-based, so you'll fill out a separate application through our website, and you'll do a little essay and provide a resume and that sort of thing. And then we have a diversity scholarship as well. So that is partnered with the FEA. It is $5,000 per awardee, and you apply separately on FEA's website too. So some awesome opportunities through IFSA. And then we have some specific Sri Lanka opportunities, especially for spring 2025. We are running our Bring a Friend grant. So if you bring a friend on the program with you, you will both receive $750 in the form of a cultural grant once you're on site to help with anything you need, daily living costs, things like that, once you're in Sri Lanka. And then we're also doing a little promo. They're $1,000 spring grants. You can win one of them. There's 10 of them. It's a $1,000 flight voucher to help you get to your destination. So that's also happening for spring 2025 applicants as well. So some great scholarship opportunities. And if you ever have questions about how to apply for them, you can again reach out to me directly, and I'll be happy to get you to the correct application and answer questions about those. And then finally, I just want to end on some really amazing testimonials from students who have done the Sri Lanka program in the past. As you heard when we talked about the IFSA difference, we really strive to help students meet your goals and realize how this experience can impact you in the future beyond your time in Sri Lanka. And as you can see here, we have some amazing alum. This person says they learned more from Sri Lanka, their Sri Lankan host family, than the classroom, and believe the experience made their life successful, which is always amazing to hear. We have a student here who said that studying in Sri Lanka made the way for them to win the Fulbright in 2020 and finished. They got a degree at Harvard, and then now they're reading for their PhD at Stanford. So really incredible there. Here we have a doctor with Yale School of Medicine who was able to do a directed research project following the final year schedule of medical students in Sri Lanka for 4 weeks in gynecology and obstetrics as well, and got to go to lectures, and so had a really amazing experience doing the directed research program. And then finally, this student just said that it really shaped their life in so many ways, and they can't recommend it enough. So we hope that you will join us in Sri Lanka for a future study abroad semester. Thank you again so much for joining us, for watching this webinar, and please reach out if you have any questions or want to follow up on any of the stuff that we've covered today, or just have a chat with me about the program. We hope to hear from you, and take care.
Thanks, everyone. Good job.